everyone. I'm Melissa McAllister, and you're listening to The Melissa Made Show. Now, for decades, I've dedicated myself to helping women break the cycle of dieting, navigate through all the fads, and change their lives through my nutrition coaching. Now, each week, I'm going to talk about everything from deep nutrition, mindset, self-care, the ideal workout routine, tips on how and why to implement intermittent fasting in your life, my favorite recipes that are not only crowd pleasers, but they're actually healthy for you, and so much more. Now, with small and consistent changes, you can defy aging while living a happier, healthier, and more heart-filled life. I'm so excited to show you it's possible with the right strategies that are so simple to adopt.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Melissa Made Show. So today I want to talk about what I think is a fun topic, and I don't think it's discussed that often, and it's food related. Would you expect anything else? But what I want to talk about is kind of the difference between, eating a whole food based diet versus a diet that's processed. So, there for a really long time, if it fits your macros, was huge because they were coming out with so many quote unquote diet foods that were real popular that, like I'm going to use a couple of brands and I have no issues with them whatsoever. That just kind of what pops into my mind and what I see people have, which is fine. But let's just say, for instance, they're kind of good too. Those Quest protein chips. I just recently discovered those and I'm like, oh, these are actually pretty dang good. And so for people that, are in the fitness world or really trying to up their protein, we have protein chips. And come on, y'all, they're very highly processed. But as long as it fit in your macros and that's the only thing that you looked at, you're cool. And there's just a lot of products out there that will be deemed healthy because they are, if you look at the labels, they're high in fiber or they're heart healthy. They're low in fat, or some people will tout that they're high in fat. They're keto friendly, they're protein rich. And so it's confusing. And so let's just have a quick discussion on essentially why I try really hard to eat a whole food based diet and why I also try to have my clients do that as well. But I want you to keep in mind that the word processed is literally just the treatment of any fresh food to create a food product. So sauerkraut, which is incredibly healthy for you, is processed because it's fermented. Vegetables, say for instance, if you buy frozen vegetables, which, listen to me, a lot of times frozen vegetables are more healthy than the fresh variety. So in the winter months where you're like, gosh, I just can't get fresh produce, buy it frozen. Buy the frozen strawberries, the frozen blueberries, the frozen okra. You can tell I'm in Texas. And, eat those, the frozen green beans, all that, still so healthy. If it's, usually what do they call that? Flash freezing and stuff. And the advantage of frozen over fresh sometimes is they will pick fresh way too soon, where it's actually not even ripe yet. And a lot of those things that you're hearing today, the oxalates, the phytates, all that are really high because that plant is saying, it's not ready yet, don't eat it. But it's still picked at that time versus when they plan to freeze something, they will actually freeze it they will pick it when it's ripe and then almost immediately freeze it, which actually helps it hold its nutrition better. So side note, don't ever think that, healthy frozen vegetables are not as good for you as the fresh variety, because that's not always true. Okay. Back to the regularly scheduled program. 100% whole wheat flour, such a better choice, but it's still processed because it's turned into a flour. And then even cooking a tomato, for instance, which is actually better, the lycopene, which is really important for you in tomatoes, is much more bioavailable if the tomato is cooked than if it is fresh. So but that's considered processed. So I want you to keep in mind that just because something is processed doesn't mean it's bad. So even people like myself are trying to make sure that I say ultra processed or highly processed, because there is a difference between just processing a food and then also processing it in a way that takes it from being food to not even really food anymore, because we can take processing too far. So when it's gone too far, when you really want to avoid the processed food as much as you can, is when they really take a whole food, and what they do is they turn it into a fragment of food. So it's not the whole food in there, but just part of it. And that's the differentiation between a whole food and a processed food, because usually it is just fragments of that food, and your body, Mother Nature, never intended for food to be broken apart like that, as opposed to eating it in its whole state. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Soybean oil, which isn't good for you anyway, but let's use that as an example. Soybean oil is just the fat taken from soybeans. Okay. So that's a fragmented food. Sugar is taken, the sugar part is taken out of the actual plant, the cane that it is. So that is a processed food that it would be so much better in its natural form. Both of them would, the soybean or the sugar cane would be so much better for you than the white granulated sugar and the soybean oil. All right, keep this in mind that 100 calories of soybeans has almost 9 grams of protein, where 100 calories of soybean oil has zilch, 0. So when you're taking that food, that soybean, you're processing it and making it into a fragment of what it used to be, you're also missing out on a lot of other health benefits that it has, like protein. So let's talk about protein, shall we? Very popular right now. I did some research, and there's a link below of where I got it from, but she took it from the USDA. And I know right now, food prices are a little bit wonky, so don't take it with a grain of salt. Himalayan pink salt, right? It's still true when times are normal. So this could be argued a little bit right now, because you'll see what I mean here in a second, and hopefully you get a chuckle out of it, because it's kind of funny all the memes out there about eggs. But anyway, protein from whole food is usually cheaper. It's definitely more filling. It's less risky, and it naturally includes beneficial nutrients along with it. Okay. So let's talk about having, a chicken breast or a piece of steak or some eggs versus the processed, sometimes very highly processed protein shake, okay, or protein powder or protein bar, because we want that protein. And all we're looking at is the macros or the added vitamins and minerals or the added fiber that they strip away to put back in, which makes absolutely no sense for you to get that protein. So to get a gram of protein from chicken is about 2 cents. Okay. To get a gram of protein from eggs, it's about 4 to 5 cents, or right now, $6 to $7. I'm just kidding. It's crazy. To get a gram of protein from a Greek yogurt is about 9 cents. And then to get a gram of protein from a protein shake is about 7 cents. And I chose Premier Protein. I've personally never had one. Very popular. I see it on Instagram a lot. I see people, on flights drinking them. And so I went to Walmart, which is probably the cheapest place to get it. I also looked on Amazon, and it was about a third more expensive. So it's still, aside from the Greek yogurt, the most expensive way to get your protein gram per cost, even at the cheapest place that I could find it. But outside of that, I want you to look at the other ingredients. Again, I'm not picking on Premier Protein. It's just the most common one that I see. And you will see that the list of other ingredients is, there's a lot. Can't pronounce any of them. a lot of other ingredients for you to get the protein that you want, which, call me crazy, cook up a chicken breast, put it in a baggie, and take that with you. Then you're getting a lot more nutrition with that, and the advantage of more satiety and what your body is meant to do when it gets protein. It's meant to chew it. It's meant to digest it. It's got this great thermic effect of food where it takes a lot to break that down. Protein powder is already pretty much broken down, and there's not as much work for your body to break down a protein drink than it is for it to break down a piece of steak. Okay. But I looked real fast in the Premier Protein as well. When you have protein, a lot of times you're getting that iron that you need as well. But iron needs B12. Okay, it's called a cofactor. So Mother Nature is really smart. This is why you should be an omnivore. I'm sorry, vegans. I'm sorry, carnivores. I really, truly think you should be an omnivore. I think you should eat plants. I think you should eat animal products. I do. And Mother Nature is so smart in all of these plants and all of these animal products that there are certain micronutrients that are in there, and there's certain amounts of micronutrients because they work together synergistically. And I looked at the Premier Protein, and of course there's some iron in there, and they have a B12, but it's synthetic. Your body doesn't do real well with synthetic vitamins, minerals, really kind of likes the real thing. And you can always guarantee that piece of chicken, the vitamins and the minerals in that piece of chicken is going to be real. There's not going to be anything synthetic in it. If you buy the good chicken, the healthy chicken, the happy, free range, gets lots of sunshine. Did you know that when it says vegetarian diet, that's really not that good, because they should be eating bugs? When I had chickens, man, I bought those big bags of worms and bugs for them to eat, and that's not vegetarian. But back to needing all of the cofactors. So if you extract things from a fruit, a vegetable, a grain, a protein, a fat, whatever, you're missing all of these cofactors that are so essential for helping your body do what it's supposed to do with it. For instance, most of us aren't necessarily calcium deficient. What's the problem is the cofactors. You've heard of magnesium, and you need K2 with the calcium because that helps. It's a cofactor. It's helpful. It goes up to that calcium and gives that calcium a big hug and helps shuffle it where it needs to go into the right place. Have you tried countless diets, but you're still seeking your nutrition sweet spot? Are you trying to get results on your health journey to feel your best without being too restrictive? Now, I know how you feel. I've done the diet thing, but there never was that one that totally worked for me. And this is exactly why I developed the MAID diet. Now, I found that rather than restrictions, it's best to have a set of guidelines that allow you to customize based on your preferences and bio-individuality while staying on track with your health and fitness goals. I found the nutrition sweet spot. And as a health and nutrition expert, I get asked all the time what, when, and how I eat. And as someone who's passionate about education and helping others, I want to share that with you. Now, the MAID Diet ebook lays it all out for you, taking the guesswork out of dieting. The MAID Diet is a lifestyle plan that incorporates moderate protein, adequate fat, decreased carbs, and an introduction to intermittent fasting. The ebook gets right down to business by answering your most frequently asked questions. It includes thoughtfully designed recipes and a 7-day sample meal plan to start you off right. It will honestly kickstart your weight loss journey and have you losing inches in your very first week. Now, intermittent fasting combined with these nutritional guidelines is honestly the piece that so many people have been missing when trying to get results. This ebook has all the information you need in a format that is condensed and to the point so that you can get to your results. If you're ready to get started, the MAID Diet ebook is available immediately on my website for just $9.99. So head over to melissamaidonline.com/MAID Diet
to take action towards feeling your best today. And once you do, oh my gosh, please let me know it's working for you. I am so honored to be a part of your health journey. Okay, back to the show.
If you don't have the cofactors, calcium could end up in your arteries where there's calcification, where we don't want calcium. We want calcium in the bones, right? And little Miss K2, do you visualize her right now? Little Miss K2 runs up to calcium and says, hey, come with me. I know where you should go. So that's the kind of things that you need. And so, for instance, if you're just taking a calcium pill and you don't use a supplement that knows this or cares and doesn't put the cofactors with it, and you don't get it in your food, you're doing more harm than you are good. So getting back to the topic, think about juicing instead of eating the whole product. Now, I could do a whole podcast on celery juice. Not that it's good or bad. Listen, there's nothing wrong with celery juicing. I just think the person that invented it is a character. I think you should do both. If you like celery juicing and it helps you with your autoimmune disorders, oh my goodness, please do it. But don't think that everything needs to be juiced. Eat the celery too. Have the pectin and the fiber that goes along with it. That fiber is really, really important. And we need that, not just the juice. Just juicing vegetables, just juicing fruit raises it up on the glycemic index, obviously makes it a processed food, and it'll raise that blood sugar much quicker than it would if you actually, ate the food. Take a carrot, for instance, sit there and chew on your carrot, get that activity going. It gets your body ready to digest because you're chewing. Chewing is so powerful and telling the rest of your body like, hey, here comes some food, get ready. Where, liquid, not so much. It is a faster sugar rush, especially if it's fruit or things like carrots. And you're missing the importance of fiber, which helps slow down the digestion of that sugar and helps give you a nice quality poop. Who doesn't want a quality poop, right? I want you to think about processed food, meaning a steak versus a protein powder. We'll say carrot juice versus a carrot. Anything that is in you're eating actual whole grains, that really hearty chew food where you're like, goodness, this is all stuck in my teeth. But it is, these wheat berries are in as much of their natural form as possible versus just a wheat bread or a white bread. Okay, all of these foods that go from being in their natural form to processed, even if it's kind of minimally processed, it's still processed. So I want to equate that to cycling. Have you ever been on an indoor cycle or gone out on a bike and you cycle? None of you would argue with me that putting some tension on that bike is better for you than it is to just coast, right? Sure, we all want to coast sometimes, especially if you've put a lot of tension on that bike and you've gone up a really big hill or you're pushing really hard to go fast versus going downhill or going flat and being able to just barely pedal. The tension is better for you. The process of making your body work harder while on this bike is a better turnout for your health and your longevity. Your eating is no different, okay? You want to have food in its most natural form so that you have to sit there and you have to chew it for a long time. Your stomach has to release all of the enzymes and the bile to break it down because it isn't already half broken down, or some products are like almost all the way broken down, which makes your body lazy. It makes the bile lazy, the enzymes lazy, okay? Your intestines work really hard to break this food down. Your large intestines do as well. This is a good thing. This is why you were created. This is why your body it's such a phenomenal piece of machinery because it was designed to do this. And if you're constantly eating foods that are pretty dang processed, you're making your digestive system lazy, okay? So cycling, put the tension on. Eating, make your body, when you eat those quality meals just a few times a day, don't eat the 7 or 8 times a day, 3 solid meals a day, make it work, keep it strong, right? You're pushing it to be stronger. You're not handing it a 3-pound dumbbell, which is, a protein drink. You're handing it a 20-pound dumbbell, which is a piece of steak for it to break down. So I thought of this. I actually hope she's listening to this. I was working with one of my clients doing an assessment, and I told her, I said, this is an epiphany for me, and I'm going to share it. Think about, instead of tracking your macros, I want you to consider the number 25 and the equal sign. Okay. So when I say 25, simple as, I want you to think 25, at least 25 grams of fiber a day and 25 grams of sugar or less a day. Okay. So 25 grams of fiber and 25 grams or less of sugar. And if that is all you focused on, with a little hindsight on the importance of protein, your diet would be phenomenal. If you just focused on those two things, you didn't weigh everything that you ate, you didn't count your macros perfectly, all that stuff, but instead you just really concentrated on, okay, I'm going to get at least 25 grams of fiber a day. Women, men, you need a little bit more. And I'm going to really be careful with those sugars. And I'm going to have a lot less sugar. And keep in mind that the raspberries are wonderful. They're wonderful because they're like the highest fiber content and the lowest sugar of any fruit. And so if you just really work on keeping those numbers about the same, you're going to go for these really high fibrous, wonderful foods that are also lower in sugar and do very well with that. Now, when it comes to the equal sign, I want you to think about keeping your protein equal to your carbohydrates, okay? Which I think is also a very smart thing to do. Listen, you don't have to be keto low in carbs. You don't have to be super low carb person. When I say low carb, I mean lower than the standard American diet. We are having way too many carbohydrates because it keeps us from having those essential fatty acids and those really healthy proteins in our diet, because we're filling ourselves up with too many carbohydrates. So if you're really conscious of how many carbohydrates you have, you're going to find yourself hopefully looking for those healthier fats and those healthier proteins. So say, for instance, your goal is to have 100 grams of protein a day. Well, there you go. Try to equate 100 grams of carbohydrates as well. And what that kind of forces you to do is it makes you go, all right, so I'm going to be very, I want to say staunch. That's probably not the right word. Now I'll look it up after this. I want to be just very particular about my carbohydrates. So I'm going to have a big cup of raspberries because they're not super high in carbohydrates versus a mango or something like that. Please eat a mango as a treat. Don't get on me about that. I don't care. Mangoes are great. Used to live in Hawaii, but not something that I would suggest most people, especially with their insulin resistance, have every single morning for breakfast. Reach for the blueberries, reach for the raspberries. Find those more fibrous green vegetables that are, going to fill you up, give you lots of nutrition, but aren't super high in carbohydrates, like, a Chipotle burrito with a ton of the white rice in it. The white rice is a ton of carbohydrates and quite the gut balm for you. And I say Chipotle, can I be honest? Because that's what Mick is bringing home for dinner tonight. However, I did get the Chipotle bowl with no rice, but plenty of guacamole and Fiesta veggies. I did get a little bit of cheese, but I digress. To just think about your fiber, your sugar, and keeping your protein and your carbohydrates about the same, okay? And if you concentrate on those, hopefully you're eating proteins that have that good, healthy, natural fat in them, or you do pick some of your carbohydrates like avocados and your fruits, like a coconut. Coconut is a fruit that will also give you some healthy fats along with it. Or when you make those vegetables, you use those oils. So that's all I'll say about that. I always feel like Forrest Gump when I say that, which I just watched that movie the other day. Freaking phenomenal movie. My mom narrated it the whole time like she'd never seen it before. Is that a pet peeve of yours? I actually didn't mind too much because I love that woman to death. But anyway, hopefully that's some clarification for you on processed foods. Not all processed foods are bad, but you have to keep in mind that when you get into these ultra processed foods, or even foods like whole fruits and vegetables versus juicing, that there is what they call collateral damage. You are just better off 9.5 times out of 10 eating the whole food. And if you really make that a priority in your diet, the way that you grocery shop, the way that you prepare foods, you're going to see a world of difference in how you look and how you feel, both physically and emotionally. Food plays a really big role in your mental state as well. And I know you know that. So, signing off and telling you that, as always, I hope that you wake up today feeling very prepared and that you go to bed feeling very proud. You guys have a fantastic day.
Wow, we've reached the end. But before I leave you, I'd love to hear from you. After all, it's not every day that someone reaches out and asks for your opinion. And to me, your opinion does matter. So please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. And remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Melissa McAllister. And until next time, thank you for being your own health advocate.